Welcome to Civic Hub, where local leadership meets big ideas. I'm Chris Marotti, and this is the podcast that brings you straight to the decision makers shaping our communities. Each episode, we sit down with local leaders, elected officials, and change makers to dive into the strategies, innovations, and challenges shaping the places we call home. On this episode of Civic Hub, we're joined by three dedicated public servants from Denton County, Texas: County Clerk Juli Luke, Tax Assessor Collector Dawn Waye, and County Judge Andy Eads. Together, they share what inspired their call to civic service and how strong collaboration across their offices drives better outcomes for the communities they serve. All right, welcome to this episode of Civic Hub. This week, I'm joined by a delegation from Denton County, Texas. I have the Denton County Clerk, the Denton County Tax Assessor and Collector, and the Denton County County Judge. Thanks for coming on, guys. If you want to take a minute to introduce yourself, kind of do a high-level overview of what your roles are, and then we'll talk about what it's like working together to create a innovative and forward-thinking county government.
I'm Juli Luke. So as county clerk, as the Denton County Clerk, I am responsible for supporting the county level courts. I have 9 county level courts that we take care of. That includes 5 criminal courts, 2 probate courts, a civil court, and a juvenile court. In addition, I'm responsible for all the property records that are filed with the county and recorded with the county, as well as the vital records for birth, death, and marriage.
Very interesting.
Well,
a lot
I'm
of
going to
records.
brag on Julie. One of the things that she didn't mention was all the passports that her office issues. You do a lot of passports, Juli Luke.
In addition to that, we are a passport acceptance agency. So it's a good way to just not only offer a good service to the public, but it brings in a pretty good revenue stream for the county.
Mm-hmm. Very, very neat. County Judge?
Well, I'm Andy Eads. I'm the county judge of Denton County. And so there's lots of judges in the county. We have district judges and county court of law. We have probate judges and juvenile judge and 6 justices of the peace. But there's only one Denton County judge, which is a constitutional county judge. And so we are the presiding officers of the Commissioner's Court. And the Commissioner's Court is like the city council, but for the county. And so there's 4 county commissioners that each represent a geographical area of the county, and then they're like the city council members for the county. And then if you want to relate it to a municipality, and then the county judge is kind of like the mayor of the county. And so we are involved in the operations of the county. So Julie has her functions, Dawn has her functions, and I'm glad we're all here today to talk about those. And thank y'all for having us a platform today at Civic Hub to talk about what the county government does, because it's important.
Yeah.
But really we are kind of handle like the elections, the road and bridge, the health department, purchasing, facilities, all those different kind of functions of the county.
So facilitator, executive, administrator kind of operations.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. So if you're a big city, many times big cities in America have what they would call a strong mayor form of government. So that's kind of how county governments are set up, but there's over 40 different elected officials, right? And you got 3 of them right here, 40 different elected officials. So each elected official is responsible for their role and function, and they're responsible to the public. So although Julie and Dawn and I are great friends here, I'm not their boss, right? And so they're their own elected individual, elected official. So we respect that.
Very good. And Dawn?
Thanks for having us. My name's Dawn Waye, and I am the tax assessor. I'm the most loved and hated person probably in the county. What we really do is we assess the taxes, meaning that we calculate your bills. But a lot of people confuse us with the Central Appraisal District. We're interchangeable, it seems. But in reality, what we do is we take the tax roll that the appraiser gives us, chief appraiser, and we take the tax rates that we get from the entities, whether it's the city or the county or an ISD, and we calculate the bills. But we also do motor vehicles, so we're an agent for the Department of Motor Vehicles.
Wonderful. Great. Yeah, most people, one of the reasons we launched this platform is most of our citizenry and our constituents and the people that live in the counties that we represent don't understand how local government operates.
Yeah.
When we, if we graduate high school, we remember back to that one semester where we had a civics class and we learn about the 3 branches of the federal government. We don't really talk about how does local government and how does municipal and how does county government work, yet that is the platform and the place that affects the majority of our lives, and to have the three of you together is great because, in most counties, there's only one courthouse, but yet it's housed with 40 elected officials, and most people have no idea what those elected officials do. If somebody moved to the state of Texas from New York, they're going to go to the county clerk and think that's where they get their license plate, but they have to go to the tax assessor collector in Texas. So the roles are, it's great for this to be available to you guys to explain really to your citizenry what you do. I meet a lot of people that think a county judge in Texas is a robed judge, that they're sitting up there over some type of trial court, but they act as kind of the CEO or the executive of the office. So it's really interesting to see. As you guys work together on a daily basis, what are some of the kind of unique ways that you've been able to work together to kind of break down those what would be viewed as silos within county government to forge a functional relationship? Because we know county government and the interpersonal relationships that develop can be quite heated between offices. So what are some of the insights that if some of your peers are listening from other states, what's some leadership advice that you could give your peers on how to work well together?
I think I can begin with that. I'm the newbie in the crowd, so
Welcome to the family.
Thank you, thank you, and it's been a wonderful family to join. Everybody has been so embracing and helpful, and so what I found is that coming out of the private sector and coming into an elected position, I'm used to chain of command. I'm used to having somebody that I can answer to, and I answer to the people. But I also answer to my team. I also answer to the people around me that I work with. So I have found it so embracing, and it's a joy. I'm having the time of my life. I really am.
Wonderful.
And Dawn and I talked about this. I reached out to her before she took office. We met before and just kind of talked about, tools that she could use moving forward. Just offering myself as a resource along with the county treasurer, just to work together. And that's one of the things that we do in Denton County is that we do always reach out. I think we're all about each other's success in Denton County. It's a dynamic that you don't see in other counties as much. We see a lot of strife. I've seen, between my colleagues and their commissioner's court. In Denton County, it really is more of a cohesive environment, and everybody is out to see everybody else's success.
Yeah. And you guys are kind of uniquely positioned. You're part of the DFW Metroplex, which is one of the largest metroplexes in the world. And it's a unique environment. Your population is what now? You've probably exceeded 1 million people, right?
We're over 1 million. We welcome about 90 people a day that come to Denton County. So a lot of them relocating here in the Metroplex in Texas, and then across the U.S. and really actually around the world, people coming to make Denton County their home. But I'll just echo what Dawn and Juli said. I'm very proud. I've been in office 18 years at the county, and I think one of the things I'm most proud of is the culture that we have maintained and that we've cultivated, which is that the office holders work together, because we need to work together because we're all working for the same people.
Yeah.
It's the public in Denton County, and they are our boss, and I think that they expect us to work together for the common good. And so I think having those personal relationships, so any other elected official that was listening to this, I would just really encourage them to realize that it's not all about you as an individual office holder. It's about the county. It's about the public. And, criticize privately and praise publicly. I think that's just one of the rule I've tried to live by. And understand that another official is advocating for their office, because that's what their job is to do, is advocate for them, and as they should. And again, we have over 40 elected officials in the county, and about a dozen department heads. So they need to advocate for their respective departments, and it's the role of the commissioner's court to be the guardian of the public purse, right? Somebody has to say no, and sometimes it's not a no, it's a not now. Right, and so maybe it's not this year, it's next year. And so sometimes office holders may not realize the full landscape of the decisions that the commissioner's court is having to make. We're trying to balance because there are only 5 of us that are responsible for the tax rate, right? And so so where the commissioner's court is responsible for the tax rate, they're not going to hold the other elected officials responsible for the tax rate. So they're going to advocate, and it's our job is to thoughtfully listen, consider their thoughts, talk to them about that, be transparent about it. I think transparency is public, but also private conversations are important too, right? And having those relationships and to have honesty, integrity in the process. So that if someone's asking for 10 people, that they're not just asking for 10 people and hoping you'll give you 5. No, is it a real 10 or is it just, if it's 5, this is not a negotiation tool, just ask for 5, right? And so I think having that kind of relationship where people are asking for the essentials, right, not as a negotiation, I think that builds trust in the budgeting process that we all go through each summer.
Yeah, so 18 years, is that all with the, kind of in Commissioner's Court as the county judge role, or just with the county?
So I did 12 as a county commissioner for Precinct 4. So I did 6 as judge.
And what drove you into civic engagement to run for public office? Have you always wanted to do it?
No, I've been politically active. I didn't know if I was just going to be a staffer or working, but I enjoy the business. I enjoy the public business, doing the people's business. And I got a business degree, and I wanted to be a city manager when I grew up. That was what my original aspiration was. And so I got a business degree and then went and got a master's in public administration at University of North Texas, because they really have a program designed for local government. I'm glad you mentioned local government at the beginning here, because we do understand the trinity, the 3 branches of the federal government, and states are many times set up the same way, but not everybody understands the municipal and surely the county government. So I started out as an intern at the town of Addison and worked there for 6 years and in the city manager's office, and did worked in the city manager's office and did help the city secretary functions and planning and zoning and the budget for a couple of years and HR for a couple of years, and pursued a career in real estate, and I really enjoyed that. And then it was very successful, and then I was going to maybe get on a local planning and zoning commission or some kind of other civic involvement when I was selling real estate. And someone said, "You'd be a great county commissioner." And I said what so many people do, which is, what does a county commissioner do? Yeah. And so I spent about a year and a half investigating that and watching meetings and attending meetings, and I thought that might be a really good fit. So it was kind of right up my alley. So much of what I learned in municipal government relayed over to my public sector career. Yeah. So it really was a good experience.
Yeah. Dawn, you mentioned coming out of the private sector, so you obviously spent some time in the private world. What drove you to make the transition from private to public? Because we see a lot of the reverse of that, of people going from public office, maybe retiring out, and then coming in and joining the private sector. I don't know too many folks that have gone private to public. So what drove you to make that decision?
Well, I think some of it was divine intervention, but I did grow up in property management and in real estate. I'm a commercial broker. I've always loved real estate. And when I sold my company, I had a company for 7 years, Citygate Property Group, and I semi-retired, and I hated it. So I decided I was going to go work for a friend, and I received a call one day, and someone asked me if I'd be interested in running for an office. And I laughed at first because I said, no, that's, maybe for council, or, I sat on the P&Z board. That was great. But when they asked me about Denton County tax assessor, I was like, I really need to research that, because I don't know what the tax assessor really does. I was one of those people who confused the tax assessor with the appraisal district and calling the tax assessor for my deed instead of calling Juli. But once I started to understand what the job was, I realized that I had been in training all my life in what I'd been doing. And so it was a natural fit. So I went from rent collector to tax collector. But reality is that I know how to run a business, and that's what I'm doing. I have 6 offices that I oversee and people that I take care of, and so it just came upon naturally.
Wonderful.
And to your point about people not knowing, so much about local government, I always describe, it's funny that you described it as the city council of the county. Mm-hmm. That's the exact same way that I describe it, that his particular position is the mayoral position, within the city, just to kind of help people understand it. Yeah. And I know that all the time, like I just did I talked to leadership Louisville, and I always get property tax questions. Yeah. Everybody wants to know about me collecting their taxes, and I always have to refer them, to a different office. Yeah. It's just there's so much misinformation and just lack of, understanding of county government. I wish there were a a civics class regarding your local government.
Yeah, one of the things we had, we did a podcast earlier this month with Jesse Salinas, which is an elected official from Yolo County, California. And one of his amazing ideas and innovations that he's bringing is he's actually working with a professor from a university in Texas and his local establishment to bring a municipal and a county government civics class directly to high school seniors.
Okay, do you want to know why that's hard to do, why it hasn't been done before? You can teach the federal system in any classroom in America. Okay? Texas, our counties are set up differently than Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Different than the parishes in Louisiana.
Yeah, every state is different.
Every state is different. And so I was talking to some colleagues when we were at NACO, talking to some county commissioner in Florida, and the commissioners, there's different commissioners based on different years, but based on the populations of the county. And so, in Texas, there's always 4 county commissioners and a county judge, right? And so Texas is very standardized, right? And you only have 1 county clerk, right? And so it is very standardized, but it's hard because we've had those same conversations at whether at TAC or at NACO, and why do we not have more of a national curriculum? And it's really difficult because there's 50 different states.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge.
It's
a
is.
challenge.
So what he does.
That's why programs like today are important.
Yeah. He gathers up high school seniors. He, either gathers up local officials, goes to a high school. They have an opportunity to meet their local elected officials. And, many of the students, he might get 20 or 30 local officials together. And these high school kids had no idea that there was this many local officials. Then he takes them through mock elections. And if there's 100 students, he tells, okay, you 50, you sit down over there. You didn't register to vote. You don't have a say. And then the other 50 that are still there, he says, okay, 25 of you sit down. You don't get to say anything either because you registered, but you didn't show up to vote. Mm-hmm. And the remaining 10 students, he's like, these 10 people, they get to decide the choices for everyone in the room. Mm-hmm. And everybody's like, well, that's not fair. And he's like, that's how it is because you guys don't understand this. And this is why we're here today.
Well, that's a great illustration.
It is.
It is.
And it was great for him to share that because as folks are listening, they can take that idea. You guys can take that idea.
I am taking that idea. Next time we speak to a leadership class, y'all, that's what we're going to do. Everybody stretch your legs.
Everybody stand up.
And we're going to stand up.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do. I love that.
Yeah. Because the young people, the next generation, they need to understand local government. They need to understand that's where real change takes place.
Absolutely.
And right now, they're just going to wait for the federal government to change. And we know that's not where change happens. It happens at the local level.
Well, so much happens on the local level. If you think about it, as for county government, people are going to interact with their county government from cradle to grave, whether they realize it or not. From from recording your birth certificate to your voter registration, your marriage license, your divorce decree if it doesn't work out, the agri-life that we teach people how to plant gardens and nutritional health, and the roads and bridges that the county is involved in. Not only county roads, we help with city roads, we help with state roads, and so it truly the health department and all the great things that we do for public health. And so and then all along you're paying Dawn Waye, to make all the magic happen. You got to have resources, and so you're making payments to Dawn and registering your vehicle, and so and then all the way to investigating your death, issuing a death certificate, and probating your estate. That is all done at the county level.
Yep.
And so when you think about that, from truly cradle to grave, you're interacting with your county government, and so it's important that we have good people in office and with people volunteering to serve on committees and campaigns and being involved in the process.
Yeah. So Juli, tell me a little bit about your story, how you came into office, what kind of drove you to get involved and say, hey, I want to run for public office.
So public service has always been just a passion of mine. And before coming to the county, I worked for the Louisville Independent School District as a driver education kind of coordinator. I did not teach anybody how to drive. Let me let me say that. That was
coordinator.
Yeah. Official disclaimer.
Yes, I paid the instructors and provided the resources necessary. But and then I took a position with the county clerk's office, the Denton County Clerk's office. Just I was just looking for more opportunity to grow and just kind of expand, what I was doing. And I worked in the office for 9 years before I decided to run. I decided that it was time for some changes, within the office, and I just wanted to see positive change. And I decided to run for office with the full support of my family. And when I took office, I won the election in 2014. When I took office in 2015, I will never forget election night. My 7-year-old daughter was holding my hand, and the numbers came in, and she looked up at me and she said, "Mommy, are you the boss now?" And I said, "No, now I have 770,000 bosses."
Yeah.
And it's over 1 million now. But it's a unique perspective. You think you're in charge. No, you're not. You're not. You definitely answer to all of those people.
So let's roll that back really fast. When you came into office, the population was 770,000, and now it's over 1 million, and that was over nine years? No.
How many years ago?
2015. So we're going on the 10th year.
10th year.
11 years. 10 and a half years ago.
Wow. So in 10 years, you've seen
Intense growth.
pretty.
Time, yeah.
Wow.
Intense growth.
That is a lot of people. What
Well, if Denton County was a state, if you were to list all the states from the most populated to the least populated, Denton County would be the 46th state. That's how many people are in Denton County. So
Wow.
we have more people than 4 other states.
What kind of challenges do you guys see as elected officials with that rapid growth? And how do you build a roadmap out? Because you probably look at population studies of what the population is going to be in 2030 and beyond. And how do you, as an executive for the county, how do you tackle that? Pretty soon, maybe in 2030, you might be at 1.2, 1.5 million. We don't really know. But how do you prepare for that?
I think that's a great question. I think one of the things that you have to deal with is transportation, and that's a core function of county government. And so that we work on regional plans that are 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 years out, 20 years out. I'm working on projects now. I'm completing projects that I started 18 years ago.
Wow.
And so I remember, Julie, you're talking about early observations when you become in office, and Dawn, we were talking about that at lunch earlier, and I remember about being in office a couple of months, and I realized that I was going to probably spend that whole first term, where in Texas the terms are 4 years, probably just working off the commitments that my predecessor had made, right? That I was going to be wrapping up his projects that Commissioner Carter began while I'm starting my new ones, okay? And so on transportation, the environmental clearance process is so long. The construction, what I will tell the public, I think this is a little important thing for them to realize, that on a big highway project, before the public sees they ever see the first spade of dirt turning, like, oh, it's about time they were working on this highway, we've probably already been designing it and getting it through environmental clearance for a decade. Now, the construction takes about 2 years. Most highways take about 2 years to build, whether they're large or small. It usually takes about 2 years. But the environmental clearance probably takes 10 to get through. So we've been planning, we've been acquiring the right-of-way, relocating the utilities, dealing with all the property owners, having night meetings, and how do we get the alignment just right? How do we provide access and service roads and signal lights and who's going to get a signal light, right? Who's going to get a driveway? Who's not going to get a driveway? Or get one driveway or two? And so how do you go through that environmental clearance process with all the stakeholders and do that in a thoughtful and a respectful and a legal way to find the best project? And so, that takes a long time. And so mobility is one of the things, because I say people move here from all over, but they don't bring their roads with them, right? So we've got to have the roads here to meet them. And so we're just kind of always staying behind it. But one of the fastest growing areas, not only in the state, but the U.S. And so that's one of the things, and the office holders, as they're growing and expanding offices, so since I've been in office, we've opened up multiple offices, county buildings across the county, so that everybody's not having to go to the county seat, right? That's just fewer cars on the road. And so we want to bring the services out to the people. That's been a fundamental decision, and Julie and Dawn and her predecessor did a great job of setting up these satellite offices that the court built, right? And so that they're bringing the services out to them. So it's in those different locations across the county and all 4 corners of the county. So that's one of the ways that we really work to to address that. And there's some things that we control, and there's some things that we influence. And I think that is one of the things that people need to realize is that counties can influence things. We can have conversations with people and influence them, but sometimes we can't control them. And I think we influence a lot of issues, but we don't necessarily control those issues. We don't control homelessness in the county, but we can influence our cities to have good policies. We can influence our nonprofits in ways in which they can operate or should operate, but we can't control them. And so there's a lot of influence, a lot of passive positions of power that you have working for the county.
Yeah. Dawn, what do you look at when you look at growth and, maybe you're going to go for another term? How are you preparing your office for what we know is going to be large growth in a very large metro county?
Yeah, again, just in entering the office, assessing it, there's things that I'm bringing to it, but there's also been people in there that have a wealth of knowledge, that they really bring a lot to the plate. And they're the ones that really make it happen. I do want to just recap on something that Judge Eads said, is that he has, to me, the biggest job. I can't speak for Juli, but I have a slice of the pie, and I would think Juli has a slice of the pie, but he has the whole pie that he's over. And they absolutely work miracles, in my opinion. And I asked him one day, we were at a meeting, I was like, how do you handle all of this? It's like, because if you go into business, you understand, because you become responsible for everybody that's working for you, and you take that burden with you. So you absolutely have to be a servant leader. But we're working on things of communication. We really want to take it out to the public, to the consumer, and educate them at the same time they're educating us on what they need from us.
Yeah.
So to me, that's very important.
Yeah, having that feedback loop and that feedback mechanism with your constituents. Juli, when you look at it, your business is based on primarily recordings and filings, which we know with population growth, there's only one way that goes, and it goes up. Every population hurdle that a county hits, it adopts a new court or another district court or another county court at law. You absorb more courts. How is your office looking and trying to roadmap and handle that, as you know that filings are going to go up, both on recordings, on case filings, on vital records, basically on everything that comes through the courthouse? We know the volume is going to increase.
We really look at using technology to just be more efficient. We partner with our vendors, to find better solutions. And one of the things that we're really looking at right now is AI, having an AI influence on both of the court side and the recording side. We're looking at that option. I have a meeting tomorrow about some AI intelligence, and we've already been in contact with a different vendor as well. You can do more with less staff, essentially, if you use the proper technology.
Yeah.
To manage growth.
Yeah, I know elected officials sometimes really enjoy talking about AI. Others are a little scared of it because the staff instantly say, does that mean I'm going to lose my job? And usually it's a no.
Right.
It's you're going to do your job more effectively, more efficiently, because you can share that population study with your staff and say, hey, we might not have the budget for additional bodies, but we know our recording volume is going to go up 30%. So we have to adopt AI use to make sure that you can do your job more efficiently and more effectively, so you don't have a backlog of filings and recordings.
Right. And while we probably aren't reducing staff, we won't have the need to add more staff.
Yeah.
I don't have to reach out to Andy during the budget process. I mean, the cost of the solution, the AI solution, is significantly less than, X number of employees.
Right.
And having to build all the infrastructure to support the employees too.
Yeah.
So, we love our employees, and I would tell you, I was Dawn's predecessor had brought forward last year an AI solution to handle the call volumes and to be a call taker. And I will candidly admit I was very suspicious of that, because I believe you should always have a switchboard available to answer the questions. And so the court, this was presented as a budgeted item, but we were going through the contracting process. And I will tell you, again, I was very skeptical about it, but we went through that conversation about making sure the scripts were going to be knowledgeable and accurate. and that they would be able to be read by the staff there, and that people would essentially have an option to opt out to get I don't know what button you push. Is it 0 to get an operator?
Yes.
So I did not want, it was important to me that these switchboards be able to be answered. When someone calls the county, they can get a real person, right? A local person and a friendly voice. And so they've been able to implement that. And Dawn, I think it's worked out really, really well for y'all, hasn't it?
It has. And one of the things it did showcase is that we actually had more calls coming in, and we were able to facilitate those calls a lot easier. We're using AI. I love AI. I think that it's a good tool. You know, you can use it for good, you can use it for evil, but we choose to use it for good. And I really do believe that it'll enhance the job for the team that's in the offices. It'll make their life not easier, but go ahead.
Well, even after hours, Dawn, y'all
Yes.
y'all been able to provide a service during the business hours, but you also to be able to increase that, and people can call anytime, day or night, and get and walk through what kind of documents
Yes.
do I need to bring, and so they don't have to make multiple trips to your office. And I think that's the after
Absolutely.
hours was impressive to me because I didn't realize that many people called the tax office
Absolutely.
at 8 p.m.
Absolutely.
And AI doesn't take breaks.
And a lot of calls we do get come in for the Central Appraisal District.
Correct.
So we actually
Oh.
have
Direct routing to the appraisal district.
it gives them an opportunity to ask the question that they're looking for. Like they want to know if they're oh my gosh,
Exemptions.
exemption. Thank you so much. If their exemption has been approved, and then it'll automatically give them the telephone number and route them to the Central Appraisal District.
Is that where someone's trying to lower their valuation?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I've never had much luck with that.
You can call Dawn.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Dawn
No.
Spencer,
No.
the chief appraiser at the appraisal district.
I'll write you. I
It's
will
a
route you to
different
the right
Dawn.
person.
A different Dawn. It is a Dawn, but a different Dawn.
Different Dawn. What do you guys see as kind of the best part of your job?
Oh, public service. I think that we live in the best county in the best state in the union.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of just the service that we provide, and we have the very best county.
Do you want to go?
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with Juli. Being in development and being in real estate, I've worked with different counties, worked with different commissioners, worked with different judges, and I can tell you that I feel like Denton excels over all of them.
I think one of the most meaningful things about being in office is getting to work on projects that will outlive you. And we all have different roles and responsibilities here. Some are more in a customer service role, right? And I think Juli's team does a great job of customer service. And as people come in and are planning to get that passport, I love giving your number away for the passports because people go to the post office and they'll go to the post office and they'll have to wait for weeks and have a scheduled appointment. It's a lot of hurdles there, and you can call the Denton County Clerk's office and they'll get you right in. And so I love that. So a lot of the offices are really in customer service. Dawn's office, her shops are very customer service and helping people get, pay their taxes and get their car tags and help people, walk people through the transaction. It's very transactional. In my job, I enjoy, and they do a great job at that. But one of the things I enjoy is getting to work on projects that will outlive me, and I know that my grandkids will be driving some of these roads that we help make better.
What are a
safer.
couple of those projects that you instantly think about?
Yeah, I mean, one is building our new courthouse that we built. I'd love to have you come see that. We've been involved in the design of that building and making it not only good for the county employees and the officials, but really for the public, and that's a public space that people can come and I knew that it was designed well and it was a beautiful building when before we even opened up, we were moved in, and before we had the grand opening, I looked out the window and saw not one but two wedding photographers out there with the brides, and I thought, well, if it's good enough for the bridal portraits, the backyard looks nice. But instead of just creating a parking lot there, to create a amphitheater and a water feature and fireman's memorial and a police memorial, and it's creating a special place. I think that's important. And so with our public spaces, that people engage with their local government,
Yeah.
right, and not just go pay a bill, not just get some paperwork done, but I think Denton they need to be official. They need to be places that people respect. You know, they're going through a courthouse and going through judicial system, going through a court case, and it needs to look like a courthouse. You know, and there's symbolism that we have in our society. You know, that people respect processes and so forth because it's part of being part of institutions, and so, but those institutions can be welcoming to the public as well. And so, but working on projects that outlive us, you know, expanding our highways, I-35, 35W. So those are just a lot of the highways that we're building and making roads safer, you know, and I remember we had one of the most poignant parts about being in office was years ago. I was working to get Highway 380 built from Denton over to the Wise County line, and we had it designed and we had it environmentally cleared, and all we needed was to get some money, and money had been reallocated by TxDOT to another project here in the state. And I was in bed one night and I was reading. I had my laptop and I was reading emails, and I got the saddest email I've ever received in my life from a mom who lost her teenage daughter in a car wreck. These two cheerleaders lost their life with a collision out on that highway. And it still chokes me up when I think about it. But she said in this email, she said, I need to know, who do I need to come after? Who do I need to come after to get this road built? Do I need to come after you? Do I need to come after the governor? Who do I need to come after? And my daughter did everything I ever taught her to do when she learned to drive, but still got killed in this head-on collision. And I got that email, and I sent it without any explanation, without any forwarding comments. I sent it to everybody who had reallocated that money away from that project. I didn't say a word. And the next morning, it was late at night, the next morning I'm in there shaving, and my phone is ding, 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 ding. My wife said, what is going on? And I said, everybody is early in the morning. Everybody, all those people that got that email are opening it and replying. And I call that a blood-stained email. It was a blood-stained email that sweet mother sent me. And all these gentlemen that had reallocated the money were contacting me saying, "Oh my God, Andy, we're on it. We're going to get the money for you. We're going to get the money for you." And to show up at that ground, and I called her later that morning. I didn't email her. I called her, and I said, "You're not coming after anybody. You've gone through enough. You have a loss. Let's channel your grief into a positive means for healing for you, and not an adversarial relationship with your local government. And we're on this, and these individuals are going to reallocate the money." And so to show up at that groundbreaking, so we got the money, and I kicked in some more county money. We got state money, got an allocation. But to go to that groundbreaking of that road a couple months later, to go out there with the highway commissioner and myself and all these folks, these dignitaries, and all I could give to those parents was a golden shovel and a hard hat. Couldn't give them their child back, right? But I could give them a symbol of this road and make it better, so there's not any more parents. And this was the sad part, was all these parents, all these other kids have been lost on that highway, right? Mm-hmm. One here, two here. Over the years, and that's why we were trying to get the road built. I wasn't keeping a list of these parents, right? They hadn't contacted me. She did. I'm glad she did. But to have all, and when they had a loosely knit network of all these parents of kids that were lost out there, and I thought I was going to meet this mom and her husband. And I show up, and there's 30 parents out there with T-shirts of their kids' pictures on it. Wow. And I have 3 kids. And to be able to be in a job where you're preventing other parents from wearing T-shirts, that is a rewarding job.
It is.
That's a rewarding job.
And to me, that's the essence of what you get in Denton County, because you have the heart. We really want to make the change. What gets me up in the morning is we talk about the next gen, right?
Yeah.
We have a lot of next gen. I get so excited that we get to show them how to do their job, how to become. I don't want them to stay in the tax office forever. I'd like them to stay a little longer sometimes, but I don't want them to stay there.
They'll go work for Juli.
I want them to go on and to be everything that they can possibly be. But for me, the most gratifying is to hear my judge or to hear Juli talk about stories like this, and then to just be able to connect people to a happy ending, to be able to say yes to them rather than always saying no.
Yeah.
So
Well, we had I'll brag on Julie for a minute. We had I don't marry many people. They usually get married by the justice of the peace, but it was a nice young couple, and they were trying to get married, and couldn't find anybody to marry them, and they contacted our office, and so we got it set up for the next week, whatever, and I'll never get the sweet bride. And she called me en route to the office, and she lost the marriage license that she'd already got from Julie, and she had lost it, and she was panicked, and she was all upset. And I said, "Hi, give me your, hold on, let me see what I can do." And I called Julie. I said, "Julie, can they swing by and can you walk them through get them another marriage license?" And she said, "Send them my way." And the same thing with passports. Sometimes people are on a deadline, but they need a passport or whatever they need to do. And y'all just provide that high level of customer service, which is exemplary. Same thing with you, Dawn. I mean, people get confused about their tax bill and everything. I know I can give them to you, and you're gonna treat a friend of mine the same as anyone on the street, with a high level of customer service. And I think that's just one thing that we all do well.
We do. We have such a group of elected officials that is so publicly accessible.
Yeah.
I mean, we make ourselves accessible, and my colleagues, my other elected colleagues within the county, are just so accessible. I give everybody my phone number, my cell phone number. I want everybody to have that access. We're here for them.
Yeah. And the general public's interaction with the courthouse is usually kind of in that time of need. Mm-hmm. They're not going down there to hang out. They're going down there because they've either been summoned, by a legal letter for a jury summons. They lost their marriage license. They're going on a trip. They lost their passport. They've got to do an emergency filing. They forgot to pay their taxes, and they're probably freaking out. They don't want to lose their home. So, that interaction that most of the citizenry has, sometimes it's in a time of need, and it's nice to hear that you guys are there.
That's exactly right. I tell a lot I don't get to do it always, but I do go to a lot of new hire orientations if my schedule allows. I walk in there, and I tell them that in county government, there's a lot of ministry opportunities.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't want to use that word publicly, but I do. And there's ministry opportunities because so many things, like you just mentioned, you don't have the muscle memory. It's not something you do on an annual basis.
No.
You don't call the courthouse and get a death certificate for your mother every day, right? Some things you do once in a life. You may only get, you may go through a court system as a juror only one time, or as a plaintiff only one time, or as a defendant only one time. And so there's different things that you only do one time. And so there's a lot of, like I say, ministry opportunities to be nice to someone and say, you know what, let me walk you through this. I know you haven't gotten a passport before. It's not that complicated. Let's kind of do, or you got to get one for a deadline, or let me help you with a development permit. You haven't done one of these before. And so a driveway permit. You haven't built a driveway before. Let's help you with that. So there's lots of opportunities that you may only do once in a lifetime, or very few times in a lifetime. And so there's an opportunity. We haven't even talked really about the judicial system, and the people who work in the jail, and the great service they provide, to people that are in jail, or our juvenile detention, and I love to speak to juvenile detention and say, please take time to speak into these kids' lives.
Yeah, you can change them.
You can change them. I don't want them next door. I don't want them getting out of here and going next door to our adult jail, right? And so we hire chaplains, to speak into these kids' lives, and so that they can, maybe jail can be a transformational experience for them and not a lifestyle, right? And so those are things, same thing through the probation, lots of people with DWIs and other issues that are going through adult probation and going through that process, so that they're interacting with their county government. It may not be the best day.
Yeah.
And sometimes we see people not at their best. It's not their best day, right? They might have lost their kids, right, in the court system. But there's some great things that I'm pleased about our court system, is that Denton County has so many specialty courts. So veteran courts, and drug treatment courts, and family drug treatment courts, where parents may have lost their kids because of drug abuse by the parents, and the parents go through a life transformational process to get clean. It might take them a year or two, and they get to graduate from drug court and get to come back to that court system and get reunified with their children. So great things can happen in the courthouse. They really can. And give people a second chance. That's why I always say that we serve a God of second chances. And so we need to have accountability and compassion, and we try to marry the two of those together so that people can be their best self.
And for Dawn and I mean, we both have large departments, and I'm sure you're learning this. I know you're new to office, but your team, your staff picks up on the culture that you're bringing to the table, your culture of public service, and they're going to turn around and repeat those, thought processes and actions, and just seeing how public service, just being what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
We are here to serve the public.
Yeah.
And kindness is free. I
I love that. That's a bumper sticker.
Yeah.
But when somebody calls, if I get to someone and I don't have the answer, and I know that they've been passed around like a couple of times, I will just take their number and say, I don't have your answer right now, but you know what, I'll find it out. Or I'll call Juli and say, hey, do you handle deeds? Do you, I'm pulling that out. But just saying there's things that we can fix for people. We can be the end stop for them so that they don't get frustrated. Because I remember what it was like on the customer side, not just dealing with the county or dealing with government, but just dealing in general with customer service. So we should be that final stop if we can help.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's been great interviewing you guys and hearing your stories. It sounds like Denton County is headed on the right path, and you guys are change makers and change agents, and it's exciting to hear.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in, and thank you for sharing your stories.
Thanks for having us.
I want to thank the audience for tuning in.
Yes.
Thank you.
Of course, appreciate you.
Thanks for hosting us.
Not a problem. All righty.
We'll come back.
Yeah. Mic check. It's co-file Chris with the clarity, breaking down the system like a tech barbarity. Civic Hub's live surfing knowledge like a tsunami, rolling through the info smooth Maserati. Civic vibes, we innovate and elevate. Local government shift, let's recalibrate. Tech meets transparency, the gap we abbreviate. Civic Hub anthem, come participate. Street lights buzzing, city halls we navigate. Machines in the council throwing out the candidate. Blockchain buzzing, Chris gonna moderate. Algorithm steering votes, lines automate. Plug in, gather round this pod like it's holy. Future blueprint drafted digitally solely. Ideas hatch quick, think it's gotta be Goldie. The Civic Hub thrives where the minds all moldy. Policy precision sharper than a switchblade. Red tape slayer, break it open with the upgrade. AI council, tech dreams don't cascade. We building the future, bricks cut from the data spade.